personal words. Nobody needs to reply to them because I won't be the last to do this. I particularly want to thank the organising committee personally for persuading me to come to this beautiful place. Manish and Steve and the local team for organisation that's been smooth and efficient and supportive and welcoming. It really has made a huge difference to their contribution. What makes a meeting of this sort, of course, is actually the audience. You have been a wonderful audience, attentive, asking just the right questions at just the right moment, and outside of lecture rooms being generally lovely people. So I think you can thank everybody all at once, particularly yourself. Right, so let me try to wrap this up now. I need a whole heap of notation so I can draw a pretty picture that we can think about. Right. What I'm going to do to mention is a confounded nuisance. So I will have this notation: GL, no ends, sub F, hat means cuspidal representations of all GLNs. I want Tn of F, that's the set of conjugacy classes of extended maximal simple types in GLNF. T0n of F is blah 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 maximal simple types. Right, and you can guess what I will get that letter right. T of F is the union of Tn's, and T0, you can guess what that means. And yesterday I introduced the set E of F of endo classes of simple characters. These by their nature live in all GLNs. Right, so let's have this picture. Irreducible representations of the weight. Oh dear, I'm having a bad morning here, the chalk. Irreducible smooth representations of the Weil group. They're in bijection with GLF hat via the Langlands correspondence, and that we know is the same as the set of extended maximal simple types. If I restrict to inertia, I get a surjective map onto WF orbits or conjugacy classes of irreducible representations of inertia. Here I can just restrict. I can restrict an extended maximal simple type to a maximal simple type, and here I get another bijection for basically rather trivial reasons. One of these things is really an orbit of an irreducible representation of WF under the action of unramified characters. And the same applies here. You have to look at the way it's constructed, but it's a pretty obvious point. So that gives you that. I can here go further and look at orbits of irreducible representations of wild inertia. And a maximal simple type has got a simple character, of which we can take the endo class. So I want to talk about this and how you can try. Now this is ultimately mysterious and is the black hole in the middle of the subject, but how, if you pretend you know about that, you can get back to there and mumble something about how you get back to there. Right. So, that's a fairly substantial program. Right, what it depends on is the concept of time lifting. Let me just give you first the basic idea. We start with a simple stratum usual notation, hereditary order, a sort of level. The second parameter is always 0 in sum A, which is L06 3. Right. Now, I'm going to suppose that I also have a subfield K on F of A, such that a whole list of unlikely looking conditions. I should have said before starting on that, I'll let AK be the centralizer of K in A. Right. I want K on F tamely ramified. Do not try this with a wildly ramified extension. K commutes with beta. And the algebra, K algebra generated by beta is a field. And finally I want A is K beta pure. So A is stable under conjugation by non-zero elements of this field. Right, if I've got all of those unlikely looking hypotheses, I'll get the following picture. I set, as I may, AK is A in set AK, so that's a hereditary OK order. And I want CK, CF composed to trace from K to F. That was our basic character of F of level 1. This is again of level 1 because K on F is time. Right. So in this situation we get the quadruple AKM 0 beta is a simple stratum in AK. When you look at the associated H groups, H1 beta AK, which I can form because this is a simple stratum, that's H1 of beta A intersect AK. Right. If theta is a simple character attached to this simple stratum over F, then theta K, oh, let me be really chintzy at this point and remember there's an CF there. Then theta K, which is theta restricted to this H1 beta AK, that is a simple character. C of AK beta with respect to the additive character of CK. Right. That's quite fun. Not in fact that hard to prove, but I won't do it. There's a little warning here. Well, it's a rather interesting phenomenon. Note, not every simple character over k is of the form over k. You have to cope with that in a rather amusing way. If you've got this given this phi, there exists a simple stratum AK M0 beta prime. Now that's a stratum over K. Has the following properties. The set of simple characters is the same as the simple characters in beta. This sort of thing happens all the time. When I go down to F, that quadruple with beta prime in place of beta is a simple stratum. And this genuinely happens. You do have to shift these things around sometimes. And the conclusion is phi, or you can arrange things so that phi is theta prime k, the sum theta prime with theta a beta prime. So you might have to adjust the stratum defining the simple characters to get this particular one. This is a slightly chancy sort of thing. It's not that common, but it does happen. Right, so let me tell you how you use this. I want to work with endo classes, so I'm cheating a bit here. I'm cutting down what's a very long proof. Let's take an endo class of degree n. So the parameter field, the field given by a simple stratum under it, is of degree n. So I take A, let's say, take a realization theta in C of A beta of theta, where beta and that's in so I take a minimal degree a realization of it over a vector space, a minimal possible degree. Right, so that's a simple character of endo class theta. Right, so I take K on F finite time. I look at the semi-simple algebra K tensor E, and I write that as a product of fields. Now then, and I let beta I is the image of beta in EI. Right, so EI is K of beta I. Now, the next thing I do, I take AI is the unique VI pure hereditary order in the F endomorphisms of this field EI. Right. And then I can choose theta I in C of AI, theta I, CF of endoclass theta. Right, I certainly do that, all the numbers add up to allow me to get a realisation there. And then I put, what notation am I going to do? I can then form, well, what's going on in here? This field E, the field K and the element beta I satisfy all the hypotheses I had before. So I can form theta I K as before. I can move to the centralizer of K, which is sitting inside this field, which normalises the order AI. Right, and if I let Phi be the endoclass of theta, little theta I K, then Phi1 up to Phi, you get one for each component, they're distinct, and they are the K on F lifts of theta. Right, so, and taken as a set, these things are all independent of the hundreds of choices that I've made on the way.
They conjugate with each other by certain Galois action?
If K on F is Galois, they're all conjugate. In fact, if you've got an orthomorphism group of K over F, it will switch them around in the right sort of way. The whole thing is natural with respect to orthomorphisms in place. So theorem. That K on F finite time. If I've got an endoclass of simple characters over K, there exists a unique endoclass over F, of which is the K on F lift. Alright, so, and also here, B goes to theta, gives a map, a surjective map, from endoclasses over K to endoclasses over F. It's a sort of base field restriction, but I prefer to think of it as an induction. Keep changing my mind, so I have mind like that. And that thing, it's canonical, believe it or not, and this is transitive in K on F. Right, the important point is that you can make this work for non-Galois extensions. In fact, the construction doesn't give a damn whether the field extension is Galois or not. And this is in contrast to the thing I think I have to tie it up. that's a fair bit of slog along the lines of a simple character, simple strata, with some extra little twists, but it is at that level. It's an internal representation theory with the GLNs. What makes this all useful, and this is hard work, I'll only give you the end point of this, is you can relate it to automorphic induction. Which I'm not going to tell you about. It takes far too long. But let me tell you what it does, rather than how it does it. It derives ultimately from the trace formula, and you'll see what it does if you don't know it already. So now we take, and this is different, K on F, finite cyclic. Don't care about it being tame, but I do care about it being cyclic. Let's say the degree is D. Right. If I take an irreducible tempered, I'm not going to tell you what a tempered representation is either. Well, when we need it, it will all be quite obvious, of GLMK. Automorphic induction gives you an irreducible tempered of GLMDF. And what happens is, what this corresponds to under the Langlands correspondence is pi is L sigma, that's the Langlands parameter, you know, where I put the L varies from time to time, where sigma is a semi-simple representation of the Lie group of K. And then the automorphically induced representation goes with the induced representation, induced from the Lie group of K to the Lie group of F of sigma. That's what this does. Right, it's an awkward thing to describe in a hurry because it's a relation between the character of pi, or the sum of the conjugates, sum of the characters of conjugates of pi, and a sort of twisted character of this automorphically induced representation with a transfer factor in between. So it's an idea that rambles through the works of Langlands, Shellstack, Koplitz, and finally Enyar and Herb. Enyar and Herb. And with modifications later for positive characteristic. Alright. Now, where the relation comes is theorem. Let's take K on F cyclic time degree D. And let's take the cuspidal representation of GLMK. That's certainly temporal. Right then, when I automorphically induce this thing rho, I'll use this horrible notation, which is what one does, pi1 squared plus that by r, where phi j are in, hang on, m d over r f, the cuspidal, this thing r divides d, so you get a bunch of cuspidals. All this means in this instance is that that's the parabolically induced representation of those things. Levy is the Langland's quotient of that, but since it's irreducible, we don't really need to worry about it. You get that, and you have, that's a general remark. The point of the theorem is that the endo class of simple characters in the representation phi j is always the tamely induced version of the endo class of characters in theta rho. Oh, I've got my numbers right. Yeah, that's okay, isn't it? Yeah. So when you automorphically induce, you get a load of things. I'm always going to want the case where this is irreducible, so there's only one of them. Where this is cuspidal, so there's only one of them. But the endo class of simple characters goes down along with automorphic induction. There's a corresponding theorem for place change. That place change is the one you prove. The first one, this is a corollary. It does, and just because I'm so fond of saying it, proof relies on lots of things, but including the conductor formula. Because that gives you a way of recognizing things that works on both sides for the simple characters and for the trace formula sorts of stuff. Right. That's the hard part of the thing that I wanted to get to first of all.
Can this give the same local Langland's correspondence as a special case?
Yes. Actually, yes you can. I was going to do that as an example later on partly. Now, so let's have any corollary. The Langland's correspondence induces canonical bijection. From endo classes of simple characters to orbits of irreducible representations of wild inertia. I'll call it theta goes to L theta. You choose, and it doesn't matter which one you choose, a cuspidal representation of some GL with theta of pi is the theta I started with. Pi's contain a simple character of endo class theta. And then, if sigma is L pi, so that's an area in WF hat, L theta is the image of sigma in that orbit space. Remember, you just restrict sigma to the wild inertia and you take a conjugacy class of any one of its irreducible components. Right. So, the way you prove that is if you start where you're, what you have to do is if you've got two cuspidal representations, you have to show that they've got the same ender classes, so this is if and only if there's a PF homomorphism between the corresponding Galois parameters. If you start with the case where the sigma I are irreducible on wild inertia, it's easy. Because if they've got a non-zero homomorphism between them on the wild inertia group, one is a twist of the other by an untamely ramified character, and it isn't exactly difficult to keep track of what happens with twisted and tamely ramified characters. Once you've got that case, then you can go through a long rigmarole using this theorem 7 times to get to the general case. Right. It's a real test of your grasp of local Galois theory, I tell you. Right. Okay. So let's drag some more out of this. So, consequences. Well, there's a little bit more work, we're not necessarily direct consequences. First, if I take K on F finite time. Now, I will get the right letter in a moment. Endo classes of simple characters over K, we've got this bijection to orbits of irreducible representations of wild inertia. Over F I've got the same sort of thing. Here I've got my tame induction map. And here I simply have to notice that because K on F tame, those wild inertia groups are the same, so I've got an obvious boring map there. And that diagram commutes. So you can play tamely ramified base field extensions game quite easily. Okay, second result came under the heading of a nice surprise. Let's take an ender class of simple characters and let the corresponding thing be the orbit of, just choose some irreducible representation of wild inertia, of which this is the orbit. Right. The degree of this endo class is now then the dimension of rho times the degree of this field extension. That, remember that if ZF of rho, I've got to be careful to stick to Z's here. ZWZ is the WF centralizer of rho. So remember that Z on F is finite. Time. Right, so that's simple. If I choose now let little theta in C of A beta be any realization of that endo class theta. So I just somehow randomly choose all this stuff and get myself a character, simple character with that endo class. Then Z, this field Z, is F isomorphic of f of beta on f. Which came as rather a shock because you're accustomed to this beta thing not being at all well defined. But the tame bit of it is. I'll make that clearer. Basically happens because this maximal tame sub-extension is the smallest tame extension relative to which your theta has a totally wild, has a lift which is totally wildly ramified in the sense that its degree is its ramification to the power of p. You don't have to commit yourself to what the field is to describe that. So that is an intrinsic sort of object. Right. And I emphasise, because it's easy to forget in the general hurly-burly of things, that there is no canonical isomorphism here. These fields are living in totally different universes. So, let's go back to my diagram from the beginning. Right, this is the sort of thing I'm interested in at the moment. This is the heart of the matter. How on earth do you relate these representations with this highly detailed description of these simple characters? There's only one case. Well, you can find more if you tried hard, but they're not very interesting. One case where there's an obvious identification here is, let's take rho in df hat of dimension 1. So it's a character of 1 unit of z, where z, wz is the centralizer of rho. Okay, now the corresponding thing here, now over z, place field z, rho goes with a character of u1z, and a character of 1 unit is a one-dimensional simple character. So where the orbit of rho goes to, where there I think of rho as an orbit, as a character of 1 unit. I will put an L on it or something, say I'll shift it over with class field theory. And you go through all this, and this is Ham's construction of at least the simple character part of an essentially time representation. It's actually much easier to do it that way than to plough your way through how and match it up with a general theory. Because he's allowed to cut all sorts of corners because he's only got time ramification. Right. I do wonder if there might be some benefits of trying to think of JKU's celebrated construction in the sort of way. It has a very similar feel. You've really got a systematic induction process going on underneath it. But I'll leave that for the intellectuals. Right, anyway, leave aside that little case. Now, what I'll do in the remaining time is show you, if I believe that I've got a row and I know which theta it goes to, I'll tell you how you construct this thing. So your row comes from a you think of it as coming from a representation of inertia. I'll show you the simple type which goes with that representation of inertia. So that's quite explicit. In fact, I don't know what that's all like. Going from there to there is a different sort of game. Once you've got the simple type, maximal simple type, as you can pretend you've got the central character, you know the extended maximal simple type, and hence the representation of GL. Up to twisting with an unramified character of very firmly bounded degree. And all the problem is in pinning that down. Sometimes you can pin it down by the sort of methods we have, by using automorphic induction and the like. Generally speaking, you can't. You can put down a procedure, a canonical in the ordinary non-theocratic sense of a canonical way of getting from there to there, as you can prove that it differs from the Langland's conjecture, with Langland's correspondence, by a character which depends only on the thing you started with. But you can't always compute that character. When you can compute it, basically it's when this time extension is a Galois extension. You can compute it if you're prepared to put up with a whole heap of Galois and signs and transfer factors and all sorts of nonsense of that type. It's not very illuminating, I have to say, but it's there. It's the uniformity of the thing which is relevant. Basically what I'm working around saying is that the local constant of pairs, the place you use it is in pinning down that last unramified thing. And you can, there are various other tricks to actually reduce that to a very short list of local constant calculations, none of which you can do. So, one place where you can do all this actually is if this thing, this theta equivalent condition on there, comes from a minimal element. The very examples I started with first. Because there you can get away with the Godemont-Jacquet local constant, which you can compute. Another remark to be made here is that this part, and indeed this part, don't depend on knowing there is a Langland's correspondence. You can get it from a very sloppy Langland's correspondence true mod unramified twist, which in a couple of pages comes out of Arthur Clazel. So everything we've been doing, at least in characteristic zero, since 1989, has been pinning down this last unramified twist here. What have we been doing all this time? So anyway, so there, let's get that written down. Now, let's start there. What notation am I using? I want to take, without giving, I suppose I ought to give it a name, didn't I? Let's take an element of W of I hat given by sigma in W hat. So I want to take an irreducible flavor of some component of its restriction without worrying what it is. Now this thing's given by, this conjugacy class is given by a pair up to conjugacy, rho and chi. Rho is in representation of wild inertia. We need Z is this field ZF of rho, and chi is a character of the inertia group of Z, which is trivial on wild inertia of Z, which is the wild inertia of F, of course, because Z on F is tiny. Right. Oops. Now this thing, this bit is stabilised by WZ, but the WF, well, better be WZ stabiliser of time is WY, where Y on Z is unramified of degree, needs to have a name M. Right. Okay. So we're going to work in the LNF, n's the dimension of sigma, which is, where is it? You need M, you need the degree of this extension, WF, and you need dimension of rho. Of course, that's the degree of Y over F as well. Right. I want to take a max simple stratum I M 0 beta in MNF, right? Just for a change, that field has to be called P, and I want it centralizers to be B and B as usual, so that's the centralizer in there, and that's the centralizer in the hereditary order. Right, in particular, B is the maximal OP order in B, and I want to set this all up so that I've got theta and C of A beta of endoclass theta. Right, I can certainly do that. It's not the smallest realisation. I have to blow the dimension up by this n, this factor n. Right, now I take E is the maximal E on F, maximal time sub-extension of P on F. Right, this goes on rather, I'm afraid. Anyway, in this situation I've got this tame subfield and I can do the first sort of tame lifting I have. So this gives me a simple character, theta E, agree. I restricted the centralizer of E in all this mess. Right, and then that theta E in C of my other centralizer notation, that's the centralizer of E at A. That's just to show that we're keeping our eyes open and putting the additive character. Right, now I choose an isomorphism E to Z, which takes now I've got to be careful here. The endoclass theta E of little theta E start up with takes the endoclass theta E of E to sine endoclass. Now, that field Z, alright, is in an algebraic closure, it's also an abstract field, so I can talk about endoclasses over it. That map should take that to there, such that L phi is rho. Rho, of course, is being thought of as being in the inertia group, somehow in the Lie group of Z, but since Z on F's tame, it doesn't really matter. Right, okay. Now, it goes on and on. So I can use that isomorphism to identify those two fields if I feel like it. Right. Then I want L on E unramified of degree M. Therefore, in my earlier notation, L is really the field Y. That unramified extension of Z, and I don't care which isomorphism I take there. This L on E, I actually have to look at the field LP, my original order, degree M, and I also want it to be so that the original order A is LP pure. So I stick that unramified bit up on the top, and I want it still to conjugate this order. That's not a problem. So now, two more paragraphs. Lemma. There is a unique zero Heisenberg over theta. The simple character gives you have to go to a slightly bigger group in J1, you get a 1 Heisenberg, and then you have to extend it. Slightly bigger group, let's call it 0 kappa 0. That with the following properties. The function unique, no, I don't want kappa 0. Trace kappa 0. Kappa of zeta is delta of zeta times a constant. And here, zeta ranges over all F regular groups of unity in L order prime to P and delta is a character of this group of groups of unity. It doesn't matter. It's of order 2 if the ramification of EIF is even trivial otherwise. Right, so that gives me a 0 Heisenberg. Now, I had a character chi somewhere. I had chi, then there was a character of I z on pz, well, which is pf. Now that I think of as character of U1 of UZ, or U1Z, equals U1, hang on, no it's not, it was Y, wasn't it? But I'm getting class field theory turned upside down. It's a character of yes, Y, which is UL, what, U1L, and that, through the green parameterization, that gives me an irreducible cuspidal representation of GLMKE, which is not what I want. I actually lift through the norm to get the character of the units of this bigger field. I'm going to go for a totally wild extension, and that gives me a cuspidal representation of GLMKP. P is the parameter field, the F of theta in this situation. Then I can form lambda is this particular zero Heisenberg centered with that cuspidal inflated J0 I theta, and lambda is the maximal symbol type in pi, where L pi is the representation of sigma I started with. It takes a while to describe, but the whole bit fits together in a very logical way, provided you can remember all the different fields. Right, so that, I think, is that. Thank you.
Questions?
I think a stunned silence is quite reasonable. Yeah.
To get such kind of result, what kind of tools you need?
You need automorphic induction. You need to be able to work out. You get, first of all, you get things, you do it. You've got this, whichever side you want to work on, you've got that field, Z or E. You can go down the ramified step, totally ramified step down to the maximal unramified sub-extension. That's fairly straightforward because the stuff at the top is all abelian, so it's just a case of specifying the character. In fact, yes, it's totally ramified. Difference between is getting from J1 up to J0 is the issue, and that is all central, so that's hardly a problem. Now, so you get down, that gets you down to the case, this last unramified step, and then you do have to work with the automorphic induction relation. You've got two characters in the sense of distributions or whatever realizes functions, You've got cuspidal representation, so they're given by a Mackey induction formula, and you've just got to slog it out. And there are various little traps along the way, but you get through it in the end. The way that's on the at one level, and you've got to relate that to how you compute the characters of these zero Heisenbergs, which is a bit tricky, but it uses a technique from finite groups called Lateral correspondence. You can work out how groups of order prime to P act on representations of P groups that they normalise. And then at the end, you get an answer you don't like, so you go back and you can change it all around. So that's how it goes.
Do you have any idea why this delta character here is?
The quadratic character is there for a fairly harmless reason. Can't remember it offhand, you know. There's an awful lot of pages there to that, but that's it. They have a way, when you've got a quadratic ramified extension in odd residual characteristic, you can expect to see that quadratic character turning up. It just does.
But this series is independent of P, right? P could be 2.
Oh yes, it works for all P, and it works in positive characteristic and characteristic 0 as well.
Do you prove any character identities along the way?
What sorts of characters?
Local character identities for endoscopic, for automorphic injection.
Yes, you have to back up. But for a very particular sort of element. You're always interested, if you're working in GLN, you always want elliptic regular elements or quasi-regular elements, which are relatively prime to n. You have to work with those at this level. To get the whole thing started, you actually have to work with 1 unit, which is a pain, but once you've got that started, you forget about those. These are the ones where it really matters. Yeah. Somebody asked me a question yesterday about why we use elliptic quasi-regular rather than elliptic regular. Well, the point is, this element is likely to be something like the beta that we use in the stratum, and there's no guarantee that that generates a separable field extension. You can make it happen, but it's a real pain to have to keep stopping and putting in a lemma that says I can change this to something separable without messing this up. No, you just do it once. That was even on the check yesterday. Okay.
More questions? Let's thank the speaker for a very wonderful series of lectures.